Far away from Earth, beyond the last known colony line, a lone human warship drifted through silent space. Its name was Horizon's Edge, a powerful ship built for defense and exploration. The mission was simple: routine patrol, record deep space readings, and make sure no unknown object crossed human space. It had been quiet for weeks, nothing unusual, until the sensors started showing something strange. At first, the crew thought it was just another glitch. Space was full of false signals, reflections, static, ghost echoes. But this was different. The radar picked up a massive structure moving slowly, with perfect precision, like something alive but mechanical. The shape didn't match any human ship, colony station, or satellite ever recorded. It was big, far bigger than anything Earth had built. The officer on duty stared at the screen, his voice shaking as he reported the reading to command. Within minutes, the quiet ship turned into a storm of voices. Engineers checked systems, officers double-checked coordinates, and everyone tried to stay calm. The captain ordered full recording and visual scan. The moment the image appeared on the main display, the control room went silent. It wasn't a human ship. It was smooth, almost organic, made of silver and blue light that seemed to ripple like water. The ship had no visible engines or weapons, yet it moved with impossible grace. Every instinct in the crew said the same thing. They were looking at something not made by human hands. Someone whispered the word contact, but no one said it aloud. Humanity had dreamed for centuries about meeting another intelligent species. Now it was here, right in front of them. Yet instead of celebration, fear filled the room. No one knew if this being was friend or enemy. Then the ship sent a signal. It wasn't random noise. It was a sequence of tones and pulses, rhythmic and structured like a language. The communications officer began decoding it while everyone waited. The lights on the alien ship flashed slowly in patterns that looked almost like breathing. Minutes passed like hours. The translator software tried every known encryption, but the patterns were too advanced. Then suddenly the message made sense. The alien ship wasn't greeting them. It was demanding identification and asking them to surrender all weapons. The command center froze. A message like that wasn't what anyone expected from a peaceful first contact. The captain's voice was calm, but the tension underneath it was clear. "Send a response," he said quietly. "Tell them we are explorers. We mean no harm," the reply was transmitted. Then silence again. The alien ship didn't answer. Hours went by. Every crew member felt the weight of that silence. Out here, millions of miles from home, they were completely alone. There was no fleet to back them up, no time for Earth to send help. Finally, the alien ship moved closer. Its massive form filled the entire viewing screen. It emitted another signal, not a voice, but a deep tone that vibrated through the ship's hull. The communication team scrambled to isolate it, and soon the translation system caught fragments of meaning. The voice that emerged was calm, slow, and coldly curious. "Your kind carries war in its voice," it said. "Do you understand peace?" The words echoed through the ship. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. How could they explain themselves to beings that already judged them as violent? Humanity's history was full of wars, but also of rebuilding, discovery, and hope. Yet to these beings, maybe all they saw was a species that built weapons first and peace later. The captain stood in front of the communication console. "We understand peace," he said, carefully choosing his words. "But we have also known danger. We protect ourselves because we must." The alien voice paused for a long moment. Then it spoke again. "Protection becomes destruction when fear leads the hand." Those words hit hard. Every human on board felt exposed, as if these beings could see right through their armor into their hearts. It wasn't just a conversation anymore. It felt like a judgment. The ship's crew continued transmitting human languages, images, and tones, trying to find common ground. They sent sounds of rain, waves, laughter, and music, simple things that spoke of life and emotion. The aliens responded with light and color, patterns that seemed to pulse with meaning. Slowly, both sides started understanding small fragments of each other, but tension remained. Every movement the alien ship made was watched with fear. Every silence felt like a warning. The humans were trained for battle, not diplomacy, yet none of them wanted this to end in violence. As the alien ship rotated slowly, beams of light scanned the horizon's edge. The humans realized it wasn't just scanning technology. It was studying them. Their energy systems, their structure, even the pulse of their crew. It was as if the aliens were reading their very nature. Then the translator captured a new phrase. You are many voices, but not one mind. You reach for the stars, yet you fear the dark. The crew didn't know how to respond. The captain simply said, "We learn as we go." There was silence again. Long, endless silence. Hours passed. The alien ship didn't move away or attack. It simply hovered there as if thinking. Inside Horizon's Edge, people barely spoke. The hum of the engines was the only sound. The tension was unbearable. Everyone wanted to believe the aliens were peaceful, but no one was sure. Then, just before the shift ended, the alien ship sent one final transmission. This time, the voice was softer. "Do not let fear speak for your kind," it said. "We will listen." Once more. And then it vanished. The massive shape dissolved into a ripple of blue light and disappeared from every scanner. No trace, no signal, nothing. It was as if the ship had never been there at all. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, people began to breathe again. The captain sat back, staring at the empty screen. He knew this was only the beginning. Whatever those beings were, they were watching. And they had judged humanity's first meeting not by strength, but by its reaction. In the silence that followed, one of the younger officers whispered, "Do you think they'll come back?" The captain looked out at the dark stars beyond the glass. "They will," he said quietly. "And when they do, I hope we've learned enough not to fear what we don't understand." That night, as the ship drifted quietly through space, the crew couldn't sleep. They had seen something beyond imagination, something that made them question everything they thought they knew about life. Power and peace, and somewhere out there, in the endless dark, the message of that first meeting began to travel, across satellites, across colonies, across the galaxy. The story of Horizon's Edge and the aliens who asked the simplest, hardest question of all. Do you understand peace? The answer, humanity realized, was still waiting to be found. The next morning, the crew of Horizon's Edge woke up to the same silence that had followed the alien disappearance. No one could forget that voice. It had not been loud or angry, yet it had pierced straight through them. Do you understand peace? Those words kept echoing in every mind on the ship. Some tried to brush it off as a strange misunderstanding. Others quietly wondered if it had been true. In the control room, the captain stood alone, staring at the blackness of space. The stars looked the same as before, but everything felt different. Humanity had always wondered what would happen when they finally met someone else in the universe. No one imagined that the first thing aliens would do was question their soul. A small team was already trying to replay every bit of the recording. They slowed down the signals, searched for hidden patterns, and tried to find a clue to what the aliens meant. Maybe the message wasn't a warning. Maybe it was an invitation to prove something. But the truth was, no one really knew. For the next few hours, the crew went about their work quietly. Even normal sounds, footsteps, the hum of the engines, the faint beep of monitors seemed louder than usual. Everyone acted normal, but their thoughts were far away. Some of them were proud that they hadn't panicked. Others felt they'd failed the first test of a lifetime. Suddenly, one of the officers noticed something unusual. On the radar, a faint pulse appeared and disappeared again, like a heartbeat in the dark. It wasn't the same signal as before, but it was close, similar frequency, similar rhythm. The alien ship might not be gone after all. The captain ordered the ship to hold position. Communication officers began decoding again. The signal was weak and broken, but it carried patterns that felt intentional. The tone was softer this time, less like a command and more like an observation. Through hours of translation work, they began to make out fragments. The aliens were studying them, learning human languages, listening to their transmissions, trying to understand their emotions. The message wasn't an attack or a threat. It was curiosity. The captain made a choice that surprised everyone. He told the crew to open a live feed of human life on Earth. Images of oceans, forests, cities, laughter, and children playing filled the ship's main display. The crew watched too, silent and thoughtful. Those weren't just pictures. They were reminders of what they were protecting, of who they really were beyond their weapons and machines. The data was transmitted to the alien signal. Minutes passed. Then a new wave of light appeared outside. It wasn't blinding, just soft, like distant lightning in slow motion. The alien ship reappeared, not close this time, but visible in the distance. It shimmered like it was half inside another dimension. Then came the voice again, translated through static. You show us your world, full of both beauty and fear. Tell us which one leads you. The captain didn't rush to answer. He knew this wasn't just about his ship. It was about all of humanity. Both, he said after a long pause. Fear teaches us to survive. Beauty reminds us why we should. The aliens didn't respond for a long while, but their lights changed color, slowly turning from sharp blue to warm white. Maybe it was a sign of thought or emotion or something else entirely. Whatever it meant, it didn't feel hostile. Hours turned into a day. The crew started to relax just a little. Some even laughed again, whispering about what the aliens must be thinking. Others wrote down their thoughts, trying to make sense of it all. For the first time, the crew realized that the aliens might not be judging them. They might be testing how humanity would respond when faced with something completely unknown. Later that evening, the alien signal returned, this time with clearer sound. The voice said, Your kind looks at the stars and reaches with hope. Yet your hands still hold fire. You carry two truths. We came to see which one rules your path. Those words sent chills through everyone. The aliens weren't just here to meet humans, they were studying the very core of who they were. The captain looked at his crew and said quietly, Then we better show them the right truth. The next few hours became a strange, peaceful exchange. Humans sent more transmissions, recordings of music, stories, and messages of unity from old Earth archives. The aliens replied with sounds and lights that no one could fully explain, but somehow felt emotional. The translation system described their responses as patterns of empathy. Even the most hardened crew members began to feel a connection forming. They didn't see the aliens as monsters or invaders anymore, but as beings trying to understand a species that was still learning to understand itself. Then something unexpected happened. As the alien and human signals overlapped, a sudden surge of energy hit the ship. The lights flickered, and the navigation system went offline for a few seconds. Panic spread through the control room. The crew thought it was an attack, but the readings showed something else. A massive energy pulse had passed through them harmlessly, almost like a scan. Once the system stabilized, a new message appeared on the screen. It wasn't a voice this time, but a set of symbols forming slowly across the monitor. The computer translated it as, Fear breaks understanding. We see it still lives in you. Learn to master it, or it will speak for you again. Then, the alien ship vanished once more. The crew stared at the empty space where it had been. No explosion, no farewell, just silence. But the message stayed with them. For the next few days, they didn't move from that sector. They repaired small damages, recalibrated systems, and replayed every second of the encounter. The captain wrote a detailed report to Earth Command. He didn't just describe what happened, he described how it felt. The way the aliens looked at humanity not as an enemy, but as a question waiting for an answer. When the report reached Earth, it spread quickly across governments and research agencies. Some leaders saw the encounter as a warning. Others saw it as an invitation to evolve. Scientists and philosophers debated what learn to master fear really meant. The world suddenly realized that humanity's biggest test wasn't from outside, it was from within. Back aboard Horizon's Edge, the stars looked brighter. The crew sat together in the mess hall talking softly. They weren't the same people who had left Earth. Something had changed. One of the younger crew members said quietly, If they come back again, what do you think they'll ask next? The captain looked at the stars and smiled faintly. Maybe they won't ask anything, he said. Maybe next time they'll just listen. The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't a heavy silence. It was calm, hopeful even. Outside, space stretched endlessly, filled with mysteries still waiting. Somewhere beyond the stars, the aliens who had judged them might still be watching. And maybe, just maybe, they had seen something worth believing in. The encounter didn't end with fear or war. It ended with reflection, a quiet promise that humanity would try to understand peace, not just talk about it. As the ship continued its slow journey home, the captain recorded one final note in the ship's log. They came not to fight, but to ask us what kind of people we really are. Maybe that's the question every species must face before it earns its place among the stars. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of history. The first true meeting between humans and another intelligent life form had not been about power. It had been about understanding. And that small difference would echo across the stars for generations to come. Days passed after the strange meeting. The horizon's edge drifted quietly through the stars, still following its patrol path. But everyone knew things were no longer the same. Every person on board carried the memory of that encounter deep inside. It wasn't just about meeting an alien species. It was about what those beings had seen in humanity. Back on Earth, the story had already reached every corner of the planet. News channels, science networks, and space agencies couldn't stop talking about it. People were excited, afraid, and curious all at once. But out here in the silence of space, the crew of Horizon's Edge didn't feel famous. They felt small, like travelers who had looked into the mirror of the universe and seen something they weren't ready for. In the command room, the captain read messages from Earth Command. Most were full of confusion and questions. Some demanded proof. Others wanted to know if the aliens were a threat. There were even debates on whether humans should prepare for war or try to contact them again. But no one could decide what again really meant, because the aliens hadn't truly left a trace to follow. The captain sighed, looking out the window at the endless dark. He knew fear was spreading back home. People feared what they didn't understand, and that was exactly what the aliens had warned them about. He wondered if they were watching now, observing how humanity reacted to the unknown. On board, life slowly returned to routine. The crew checked systems, logged reports, and tried to act normal. Yet beneath every task was that same unspoken question. What if they come back? One day during a quiet shift, a soft signal appeared again, weak but recognizable. It wasn't from the aliens directly this time. It was a reflection of their earlier transmission bouncing through nearby debris fields. But hidden inside the signal was something new, something coded differently. The communications team worked non-stop to decode it. The message wasn't words this time. It was a sequence of images, blurred, abstract, but meaningful. At first they looked like waves of color, but when rearranged they formed pictures. The crew gasped when they saw them. The images showed the Earth, blue, white, and fragile. Then flashes of human history appeared. Fires, wars, cities rising, people embracing. It was as if the aliens had studied the entire human story in seconds and sent it back as a reflection. The final image was of a human hand reaching out toward the stars, and a glowing light reaching back. Everyone went silent. They didn't know if it was a warning, a memory, or a question. The captain stared at the screen and said softly, "They want to understand who we really are." The crew decided to respond, not with signals of command or data, but with something that carried feeling. They gathered recordings from Earth. Laughter from a crowd, children singing, the sound of rain, the whisper of waves hitting a shore. They sent it all in one long transmission, hoping it would mean something beyond words. For hours there was nothing. Then in the distance the stars shifted ever so slightly. A soft glow appeared, almost invisible at first. The alien ship was back, but it didn't approach this time. It stayed far, as if observing. Suddenly the translation system picked up a faint signal. The voice returned, calm and thoughtful. "We see what you share. You carry both creation and destruction. Why do you choose both?" No one knew how to answer that. After a long silence, the captain spoke. "Because life needs both to grow. We learn by falling. We find light by facing the dark." For a moment, the lights on the alien vessel pulsed rhythmically. It almost looked like slow breathing. Then came the reply. "Your path is heavy with struggle. Yet you still reach upward. This we have not seen before." The room filled with quiet emotion. Those words, simple as they were, felt like the first sign of understanding. The alien ship released a series of gentle energy waves that shimmered like soft ripples through the void. The crew's scanners detected no threat. It felt more like a greeting, an acknowledgement. Then something unexpected happened. The aliens shared something in return. Sound. It wasn't speech or noise, but a deep melodic hum that seemed to vibrate in the chest more than in the ears. Every person aboard felt it differently. Some said it reminded them of home, others of peace. It was a kind of universal harmony that didn't need translation. When the sound ended, the captain recorded it, saving every frequency. He didn't know if it was music, emotion, or a message. Maybe it was all three. Afterward, the alien ship faded again, leaving behind a trail of faint light particles drifting in space. Scientists would later say it was residue from advanced energy fields, but to the crew, it looked like the aliens had left a gentle mark, a promise that this meeting wasn't the end. The next day, a communication came from Earth Command. They wanted a full report, but they also had an order: return home immediately. The world wanted to see the heroes of first contact, but the crew didn't feel like heroes. They felt like students who had just been given a lesson they didn't yet understand. As the ship turned toward Earth, the captain gathered the crew for one last message. He said, "We've spent centuries wondering if we were alone. Now we know we're not. But what matters is what we do next. If those beings are watching, they're not judging our power, they're watching our hearts." His words stayed with them as the stars passed slowly by. Some crew members looked out the windows, half expecting the alien lights to appear again, but space remained quiet. When Horizon's Edge finally entered Earth's communication range, they were met with applause, news feeds, and endless questions. Reporters called it the encounter of the century. Yet the captain spoke simply during the broadcast. He didn't brag or dramatize. He said they didn't come to fight or invade. They came to understand. And they left us with a question we must all answer. Do we act from fear or from hope? Those words spread faster than the news itself. Schools, scientists, and even world leaders quoted them. For once, humanity seemed united in curiosity rather than division. Weeks later, as the Horizon's Edge rested in orbit, the crew still couldn't forget that hum, the alien sound that had touched something deep inside them. Some scientists tried to decode it using advanced AI systems. Others played it like a song, believing it contained meaning that human machines couldn't measure. One night, as the ship floated above the blue glow of Earth, the captain stood alone on the observation deck. He watched the planet turn below him, oceans, clouds, lights of cities flickering like tiny stars. He thought of that alien voice asking about peace and fear. Maybe, he thought, peace wasn't something to find among the stars. Maybe it had to begin here on this fragile world. He whispered quietly to himself. We have so much to learn. Then, just for a second, he thought he saw a flicker in the distance, a faint blue shimmer like the echo of the alien ship. It was gone in an instant, but it made him smile. The meeting had changed everything. Not just technology or science, but perspective. Humanity had looked into the universe and found that intelligence wasn't rare. It was watching, waiting, and perhaps even hoping that humans would rise above their fears. And somewhere, far beyond the edges of human maps, the message of that meeting traveled still, through stars, through silence, through time, carrying with it the quiet promise that this was only the beginning of a much greater story. The first contact had not ended with war or destruction. It had ended with understanding and with the faintest whisper of peace. The Horizon's Edge was halfway back to Earth when everything changed again. The crew thought the encounter was over. They believed the aliens had left and would not return soon. But the universe had other plans. It started as a small vibration deep within the ship's structure, so light that most people didn't even notice. Then the lights flickered once, then twice. The communication console beeped rapidly, showing an unknown transmission wave spreading through every system. The same alien signature. For a moment, everyone froze. The captain rushed to the main control screen, and there it was. A familiar shimmer in the distance, a blue glow slowly forming into the shape they all recognized. The alien ship had returned. But this time something was different. The readings showed unstable energy, like the alien vessel was struggling to stay in one place. The captain ordered all systems to stand by. No weapons, no defense mode, just observation. He didn't want to repeat the mistakes of fear. The alien signal came through instantly. The voice was still calm, but there was something urgent in its tone. You have learned to listen. Now you must act. The translator struggled to catch the meaning, and fragments of the message appeared on screen. Unstable field. Chain reaction. Danger to this region. The crew looked at each other in confusion. The aliens weren't here to attack, they were warning them. Something massive was happening near the system, something beyond human understanding. They quickly scanned the surrounding area and found the problem. A strange ripple of energy was spreading near a dying star not far from their route. It was beautiful to look at, like waves of liquid light, but the readings showed danger, unstable, gravitational forces that could create a supernova-like explosion. The aliens were trying to stop it. The human crew watched in awe as the alien ship released thousands of glowing fragments, small drones of pure energy, toward the unstable field. They worked in perfect harmony like living light. The sight was breathtaking. Then came another message. The balance will fail. We must hold it. The captain understood what it meant. The aliens were trying to prevent a disaster that could destroy nearby star systems. Without thinking, he ordered the crew to assist. Engineers redirected the ship's energy beams to strengthen the field barrier. Scientists on board worked furiously, trying to calculate how to stabilize the energy flow. For the first time, humans and aliens were working side by side, not with words, but with shared purpose. As the minutes turned to hours, the ship trembled from the growing energy pressure. The alien vessel's lights dimmed as it poured its strength into the field. The humans did the same, sending every spare bit of power they had to reinforce the structure. Then a sudden burst of light flashed through space, blinding everyone. The barrier had cracked. The alien voice came again, sharper this time. Your fear must not control you. Stay. The crew felt their instincts scream to flee, but the captain's voice cut through the panic. Hold position. Keep the power steady. If they're risking everything, so are we. The ship rattled violently. Sparks flew from panels. The engines overheated. Alarms blared, but the crew stayed focused. They didn't think about metals or history or danger. They thought about saving lives, even if those lives weren't human. Through the viewport, they could see the alien ship's glow fading. One by one, its light drones vanished into the storm. The captain clenched his fists, whispering, "Come on, hold together." Then, as suddenly as it began, the storm quieted. The violent energy waves slowed, the light softened, and the sensors showed stability returning to space. The danger had passed. The alien ship floated silently, dim and motionless. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the voice returned, softer than before. You chose courage over fear. The balance is restored. Relief spread through the crew. Some clapped, others laughed quietly, just happy to be alive. The captain smiled faintly and said, "Thank you, whoever you are." The translator echoed back a reply. "Now you understand." Those 3 words struck deep. They didn't mean victory, they meant growth. The aliens had come not to test human power, but to test their choices. As the alien ship regained brightness, it projected a beam of light toward Horizon's edge. Within the light, images appeared, humans working beside aliens, sharing knowledge, standing on the same ground. The message was clear: cooperation is the true strength. Before anyone could respond, the alien ship began to fade again. But this time, before vanishing completely, it released a small glowing sphere that floated toward the human vessel. The crew carefully retrieved it using a containment drone. The sphere was smooth, warm, and pulsing gently with blue light. Inside it, patterns shifted like moving stars. The scientists couldn't identify what it was made of: energy, memory, or something else entirely. When translated, the final message appeared: "For when your kind is ready," and then they were gone. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, but not in a bad way. It was full of meaning, like the pause after a great truth has been spoken. Over the next few days, the crew studied the sphere. It responded to human touch, glowing brighter when people spoke calmly, dimming when they argued or grew tense. It was as if the sphere could feel emotion. The captain decided it shouldn't be treated as a weapon or tool. "This isn't a device," he said. "It's a lesson, maybe even a gift." When they finally returned to Earth, the world was waiting. Millions watched the broadcast as the crew told their story: the disaster, the cooperation, the message of unity. The glowing sphere became a symbol of peace across the planet. Scientists wanted to study it. Leaders wanted to claim it. But the captain made a simple request: let it stay where everyone can see it. It belongs to no one. For the first time in generations, nations came together not out of fear, but out of shared wonder. Humanity began to realize that survival among the stars would depend not on strength alone, but on understanding and empathy. Months later, when the captain stood before the United Earth Assembly, he shared the most important line from the alien message: "Fear must not control you." He paused, then added his own words: "If we want to stand among the stars, we must first learn not to fear each other." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what he meant. From that day, the story of Horizon's Edge was taught everywhere, not as a tale of space adventure, but as a reminder of what it truly means to be human. The aliens hadn't come to destroy or conquer. They had come to teach, and humanity had finally listened. Late that night, as the captain looked up at the sky from Earth's surface, he thought he saw a faint blue shimmer among the stars. It was small, distant, but unmistakable. He smiled and whispered, "We're still learning." And maybe, somewhere out there in the endless dark, the aliens heard him, and smiled too. Months passed since the return of the Horizon's Edge. People still talked about the event like it was yesterday. The story of the glowing sphere and the mysterious aliens had spread to every corner of the world. It had become more than a space story. It had become a story about what it truly meant to be human. Scientists worked day and night to understand the glowing sphere that the aliens had left behind. The object sat in a large glass chamber inside a research center built specially for it. Every few seconds it pulsed with a soft blue light like a heartbeat. No one could explain what powered it or why it reacted to emotions. Some believed it contained alien technology. Others said it was alive in some way, maybe a form of communication or memory. The research team tried everything. They scanned it, measured it, and even sent signals to it. But the sphere responded only to one thing: human emotion. When people around it were calm or happy, the light glowed brighter. When someone argued or got angry, it dimmed and sometimes flickered like it was in pain. It was as if the sphere could sense harmony or conflict. Soon, the sphere became more than a mystery. It became a mirror for humanity. People began to notice how often it stayed dim. The scientists realized that even though humans had advanced technology, they still struggled with trust and understanding. The world had changed after the alien encounter, but not enough. Old rivalries still existed between nations. Greed and fear still guided decisions. The message the aliens left behind, "Fear must not control you," sounded clear, but few truly lived by it. The captain of Horizon's Edge often visited the research center. He would stand in front of the sphere quietly, watching its gentle glow. He didn't speak much, but deep down he knew the aliens had left it for a reason. It wasn't just a gift, it was a test. One day, something unusual happened. During a regular energy test, the sphere suddenly grew brighter, flooding the entire room with light. The scientists panicked, thinking it might explode. But instead of danger, they heard a sound. A faint melodic tone filled the air. Soft, peaceful, almost like a voice humming a tune. The computers picked up a signal hidden in the sound. It wasn't random noise. It was data. The team decoded it, and a holographic image appeared above the sphere, a map of stars, vast and complex. At the center of the map was a cluster of bright blue dots connected by glowing lines. A location. The scientist called the captain immediately. When he saw the image, he recognized it instantly. It was the same region where the alien ship had first appeared. The message was clear. The aliens were calling them again. Within weeks, Horizon's Edge was prepared for a second mission. This time, humanity wasn't sending explorers, they were sending ambassadors. The crew was chosen carefully, people known for wisdom and patience rather than aggression. The world had learned from its first mistake. Before departure, the captain gave a simple speech to the crew and the watching world. "We go not to claim or conquer," he said, "but to understand. We've been given a second chance to prove who we really are." When the ship left Earth, millions watched the live broadcast. People from every nation, speaking different languages, prayed for their success. For the first time, the world stood together for a common purpose. The journey was long, but the ship moved smoothly through the silent ocean of stars. The crew spent their days studying the alien map, trying to predict what they might find. As they got closer, the sensors began to detect faint energy signatures, unlike anything seen before. Finally, after weeks of travel, they reached the coordinates. But there was no alien ship waiting for them this time. Instead, they found a massive structure floating in space, a ring of light wider than any planet, rotating slowly around a dark center. It wasn't made of metal or stone. It looked alive, like flowing energy, frozen in shape. Everyone on board was speechless. The structure emitted a low hum that vibrated through the ship, the same soft tone they had heard from the sphere back on Earth. When the ship approached closer, a beam of light reached out from the ring and touched the hull. "No damage, no heat, just a connection." Then the same calm alien voice echoed through the speakers. "You have learned to listen again." The crew froze. The captain leaned forward. "We received your gift," he said carefully. "We came to return the respect you showed us." The voice replied, "The gift was not for your machines. It was for your hearts. Many still fear. Many still fight. But some have begun to understand. That is enough." Suddenly, the beam of light expanded, surrounding the entire ship. The crew saw visions, images of humans helping each other, scientists working together, people choosing peace over power. It wasn't a warning this time. It was a reflection of progress. Then the voice continued. "The universe is not ruled by power but by balance. Every world that forgets this destroys itself. You are still learning, but you have hope." The ship's sensors showed that the ring structure was made of pure energy. No metal, no atoms, nothing that human science could explain. It seemed to exist between physical and spiritual reality. The captain asked, "Why show us this?" The answer came simply, "Because your kind stands at the edge. The choice is yours, to rise or to vanish." The words hit everyone deeply. The captain realized this was more than communication. It was a lesson about the future. Humanity's next steps would decide its fate. Then, in a sudden burst of light, the ship was filled with patterns, symbols, equations, and images flashing faster than anyone could read. The computers recorded everything, but the meaning wasn't just scientific. The crew felt something emotional too, as if the message was speaking directly to their thoughts. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, it ended. The alien voice faded, leaving one final message. "Remember what you are capable of when you choose unity." The light beam withdrew. The ring of energy began to dissolve slowly, its glow spreading out like stardust before vanishing completely. The crew sat in silence. No one spoke for a long time. It wasn't fear. They were overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. They had seen something beyond science, something that touched the very meaning of being human. As Horizon's Edge began its journey back to Earth, the captain looked out into space and whispered, "They didn't just give us technology. They gave us a mirror." When they returned, the data they carried became the most important discovery in human history. The alien patterns held advanced knowledge about energy, balance, and life itself, but more importantly, they carried a message of unity that could guide the planet for generations. Governments argued over who would control the data, but eventually something unexpected happened. People remembered the captain's speech, remembered the aliens' words, and demanded cooperation. For the first time in centuries, nations agreed to form a single research alliance, not for power, but for progress. The sphere on Earth began to glow brighter again, as if it could sense the harmony spreading across the world. Its blue light filled the chamber, warm and peaceful, almost like it was alive with joy. Children visited it every day. Artists painted it. Poets wrote about it. It became a symbol not of alien contact, but of human potential. The captain knew the journey wasn't over. Humanity still had much to learn, but something inside him had changed forever. He no longer looked at the stars with fear or curiosity. He looked at them with respect. The aliens had never given them answers. They had given them choices, and maybe that was the greatest gift of all. Late at night, when the world was quiet and the stars were clear, the captain would sometimes stand outside and gaze up. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of any telescope, he knew those beings still watched, not as masters, but as witnesses, and deep inside he hoped that when they looked toward Earth again, they would see what they had always wanted to see. Not a world divided by fear, but a species finally learning how to stand together. Years passed after the Horizon's Edge returned from its second mission. The story of the alien encounter had now become a part of human history, something children learned about in school, something people spoke of with pride, hope, and curiosity. It was no longer a mystery hidden behind military walls. It had become a moment that defined humanity's future. The glowing sphere, the alien map, and the captain's words were remembered by everyone. The message the aliens had left, "Remember what you are capable of when you choose unity," echoed through generations. Slowly, the world began to change. Nations started sharing knowledge instead of hiding it. Scientists from different corners of the world worked together on energy, medicine, and space exploration. Borders still existed, but minds were opening. The world was far from perfect, but it was improving. The old way of seeing things, divided by power, fear, and pride, was fading. People had begun to see the bigger picture. They weren't just citizens of a country. They were citizens of a planet that had finally been noticed by the universe. The captain of Horizon's Edge lived a quiet life after the mission. He refused fame and interviews. He didn't care about being remembered as a hero. To him, it was never about glory. It was about growth. Every night he would step outside his home, look up at the stars and wonder if the aliens were still watching. Deep inside, he believed they were. One day, the global research team working on the alien data made a new discovery. Hidden within the complex symbols recorded during the second encounter was a pattern, a repeating pulse of energy that matched the same frequency as the sphere back on Earth. It was faint but clear, almost like a heartbeat reaching across the stars. The scientists were excited yet cautious. They didn't know if it was a signal or a test. After careful discussion, they decided to send a simple reply, not a message of technology or power, but something human. They broadcasted a recording of Earth sounds: wind, rain, children laughing, ocean waves, and a simple heartbeat. For weeks, there was silence. Nothing came back. The world waited. Then one night the sphere began to glow again, brighter than ever before. The same soft humming sound filled the air, gentle and calm, and for the first time in decades a new message appeared across its surface. Not in alien symbols this time, but in human language. It said, "We see you still trying. That is enough. Grow well." No one could believe it. The message was brief, but it felt more powerful than any discovery before. The meaning was simple. The aliens were still watching, still hoping for humanity to keep improving. They hadn't abandoned them. They were waiting patiently for humans to truly rise. The message spread around the world like fire. People cried, cheered, and celebrated, not because aliens had spoken again, but because the message felt deeply human. It reminded everyone that progress wasn't about reaching the stars. It was about becoming better as a species. Soon after, the United Planetary Council was formed, a group made up of representatives from every nation. It wasn't perfect, and there were still disagreements, but for the first time in history, the human race had one voice to speak for Earth. The Council decided to continue exploring space, but this time with respect, not conquest. They sent missions to nearby planets and moons, not to claim them, but to understand them. They called this new age the Age of Listening. As for the Horizon's Edge, the ship that had once faced the unknown and survived, it was no longer used for patrols. It became a symbol of peace and courage. It was placed in orbit as a museum, where new generations could visit and learn about the day humans first met beings from beyond. Visitors often walked through its quiet halls, touching the panels and looking through the same windows the crew had once stared out from. In the captain's old cabin, a recording played on loop, his final words before retirement. He had said, "When we met them, we thought we were the ones being tested. But they were never testing us for strength. They were testing our heart, and every choice we make from now on will be part of that test." People who heard it often left the room silent, thinking about how far humanity had come and how far it still had to go. Decades later, the captain passed away peacefully. He left behind no fortune, no power, only his journal. Inside, he had written something that many considered his true farewell message. He wrote, "They showed us the truth, that we are small, but capable of greatness. That fear can destroy worlds, but hope can build them. The aliens didn't change us. They reminded us to remember who we could be." His words were read at a global gathering broadcast across the planet. People from every nation stopped what they were doing to listen. And as the sun set, millions looked up at the sky together just as he once did. That night, something beautiful happened. For the first time in recorded history, the sphere in the research center released a beam of light that shot straight upward into the sky. It wasn't bright enough to harm anyone, but it stretched beyond the atmosphere, straight into the stars. It lasted only a few minutes, then faded. The scientists couldn't explain it, but everyone knew somehow that it was a final goodbye, or perhaps a thank you, from one civilization to another. The next morning, people around the world woke up with a strange calm inside. Cities were quieter. The news talked less about conflict and more about cooperation. It was as if the whole planet had taken a deep breath and remembered what truly mattered. In schools, children learned not only about space and science, but also about kindness, balance, and understanding. the values that had guided the captain and his crew. The alien encounter wasn't just history. It was a reminder that the universe noticed when humanity grew closer to its better self. Years later, as new generations prepared for deeper space missions, one young pilot asked during a ceremony, "Do you think they'll ever come back?" An old scientist, one who had worked on the original Sphere project, smiled softly and said, "They never left. They're watching, not to judge us, but to see if we've learned to walk on our own." The pilot nodded, staring out toward the stars. Somewhere out there, among billions of lights, might be the beings who had changed everything, not by fighting, not by ruling, but by teaching humanity the value of peace and unity. And as the engines of the next generation's ships ignited, the world below watched them rise through the clouds, their trails glowing like silver threads against the night sky. The captain's words echoed once more in the hearts of everyone who watched. They didn't come to destroy us. They came to see if we deserved to exist among the stars. That line became more than a quote, it became a promise that humanity would keep reaching, keep learning, and keep growing, no matter how long it took. Because somewhere beyond the endless darkness, a message still waited, quiet, patient, eternal, and one day, when humans were finally ready, not in strength, but in spirit, they would hear that message again. It would say, just as it did before, "We see you still trying. That is enough." And this time, the whole world would answer together, "We are still learning." The story of the Horizon's Edge was never about aliens or technology. It was about the human heart, the courage to change, the will to understand, and the dream to belong among the stars without losing what made them human. And so, the echo of that first meeting continued to travel across the cosmos, not as a warning, not as a judgment, but as a whisper of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, the universe was smiling back.